Welcome to the J. Scott Outdoors podcast. Today we're going to have a little bit of fun. We're going to have some callers call in, and I've got Cody Nelson, the optics manager at GoHunt.com, on the line. Cody, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Jay. How are you, sir? Thanks for having me.
Good. We look forward to it. Our first question comes from Dave. Dave, tell us a little bit about yourself and then hit us up with your optics questions.
Sure. I'm live here in Mesa, Arizona, and I'm a painter by trade. I paint actually cars, an auto painter, and a pretty novice hunter, not a super experienced glasser. And my question to Cody, actually, it's funny. I'm a little colorblind, actually, being an automotive painter. That might throw some people off. I make it work.
That can get interesting, huh?
Yeah. Actually, I've been told, and I'm not sure if this is true, that colorblind people see shades better than people who aren't.
I have been told that as well.
And that's how I use. I know if something doesn't match, I may not tell you why it doesn't, but I know it doesn't.
Interesting.
My question was concerning that, though, as far as optics are concerned. I've noticed I'm red-green colorblind. When I look through, I have a pretty lower-end set of binos, and when I've compared them to a middle grade, I have a Nikon Monarchs. I've compared them side by side with some Vortex Razors, and then in the store, not out in the field, I've also looked through some Swaros. I'm wondering if that affects clarity, sharpness, or like Jay says, that wow factor. I don't know if it's my inexperienced eye or what. I wonder.
First off, this is an absolutely great question, and I've dealt a little bit with it in the past, but not much. But I do, like what you were saying about shades, is everything that I know and everything I've been told and read, that people with these certain color blindnesses absolutely can pick up on shades better. So
yeah.
I would think that would have to, like if you have, with everything being equal, if you have great glass, I would think that can really play into your favor in some respects.
Okay.
The thing that I want to kind of make sure that we're kind of understanding is that when you take and you go out and you are looking at let's just say a Vortex versus a Swarovski, or what I think that probably needs to be done, and I'm going to back up just a quick second, because the different optics touch on different parts of the color spectrum. So let me give you an example. Zeiss and Leica typically hit on the blues, okay?
Okay, yep.
And the Swarovskis typically hit on the yellow side of things, okay?
Okay.
What I would be curious to know is, and this is a learning thing for me too, and it would certainly be, I think, learning for yourself, I would make it so that you could go to, somewhere that has Zeiss and somewhere that has, Leica and Swarovski, and ask them to use them at night, or at low lights, and and maybe the middle of the day is fine too, because you need to be able to tell. But I think it's going to be a less of an effect at like noon. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
But I think if you were able to put both pieces of glass together and pick something out and do it, and then look at it, and then definitively pick up another piece of glass that operates off of a different part of the color spectrum, I think you would start to understand for yourself what shades lend itself. And I would be willing, and Jay, I can arrange this, or this is kind of one of those experiments that I would be willing that at another date. Obviously, I'd like it when it gets to be a little cooler.
Yeah.
I'd like to go sit on the hillside with you, and we'll get the Zeiss rep, and we'll bring some Swarovski out, and I'd like to actually look through both pieces of glass and have you tell me what you see, because that would be as much a learning lesson for me as anything else. But I think that's the only true way for you to fully understand what it's affecting you. I don't think it has anything to do with your clarity. and the resolution, because if another thing that like I always test things against like an Air Force resolution chart. Well, the Air Force resolution chart operates in black and white.
Yeah.
And basically, you're going down the lines until the lines, the lines blur, and you're doing it at 35 yards. So that would be another thing that we could test at the same time. So, but I would tell you that I think it comes back to the same thing. You got to get your eyes behind that glass. I think that the better the glass you buy, the better results you're going to get. But I think the true thing that you need to figure out is what part of the color spectrum works for you. I think that's the number one thing that you need to figure out.
Yeah, that makes sense. I didn't realize that different manufacturers the colors, work better or work in different color spectrums.
And I don't want to butcher this, but the thing that you should know is that some manufacturers put color into it and some take it out. And it just depends on who the manufacturer is and what they think is that magic combination.
Okay.
Dave, if I can interject something here, are you saying that when you look through the binos that you use and then you look through a pair of Swarovskis or a pair of Vortex, you don't see the difference? Is that kind of where you're bewildered? You don't see the big wow factor?
Correct. And I can, the clarity I can see, but to me, it's just, and again, it may be my inexperience. If somebody says, hey, that's a good paint job, that's inexperience, I could go up and pick that thing apart. So I wasn't sure if it's just my inexperienced eye or if my colorblindness played a factor in it or what, but so just trying to get some clarity there.
So let me ask you a question. What kind of glass, and be as specific as you can, what kind of glass have you compared?
So in the field, side by side, the exact pair that I have right now is just Nikon Monarch 3s, I believe, and 1042s. I was able to borrow a friend's Vortex razors, but again, they were 1250s, so they weren't the same power. Both on a tripod. I both have that. They both had the Outdoorsman mount. I have it, and
sure.
Just looking through those two in the field was obviously the 12 more power. So taking that into consideration, the difference wasn't as huge as I thought it was going to be. And in the store, I haven't looked through a pair of Swarovskis out in the field again. Just in the store, comparing the razors with the, I think it was SLC 10x42s with the razor. Same thing. Again, indoors, I don't know if you're going to see much of a difference indoors. So that's my experience.
A lot of glasses,
it's very limited.
A lot of glasses, they look really good off the the counter. I mean, that's just kind of how it is. But what I'm thinking is that to the best of your ability, whether I can do it for you or we can set something up where we can go out together, because I think that would be a really good and fun thing to do and a learning experience by everybody.
That'd be awesome. I'd love that.
I would tell you that kind of first off is that I don't know the difference of the wow factor between the Monarchs and the razors. I would tell you that you should have noticed some difference in them. I don't know that it would have been like an oh my god difference. But I can tell you that if you're looking at some of the Swarovski stuff, versus the Monarchs, or the Zeiss or the Leica, or like the new UHDs, I think that there's going to be a much different effect on what you're seeing.
Okay.
And I think that when
the cool thing, you guys can get together and Dave, you don't want to go spend a bunch of money if you're not going to get that wow factor. So I think it's important if you can get together with Cody and see if you can find something that you think gives you that edge, and then you'll know. And I think Cody will learn something from it too. And I think it's a real interesting situation that I think we could all learn from. So I'll be curious to see what you guys come up with.
Yeah, and afterwards, Dave, I'll have, if you'll contact me,
Okay.
At Cody at Optics at Go Hunt, that would be perfect, and that we can start something, and I can kind of get with a couple of the reps and see if we can't. And what I'd like you to do is be able to compare, 3 or 4 pieces of glass of the same power. Like, for
definitely.
the most part, we always end up doing that in the 10s because everybody has a 10.
Yep.
And so I think those are the biggest things for you to look through and make a decision off of those. So, but one way or another, I think we can get something figured out for you and spend a morning, out glassing. And the better part is that I'll try to make it so that we're in a spot at least that we can actually see some deer at the same time.
Yeah, that'd be great. Sorry, go ahead.
No, please finish.
I was just going to say, it's hard to, you don't know what I'm seeing, and I don't know what you're seeing, so it's kind of hard to explain to people, and I think this would be, with you there,
Yeah, Dave,
everything.
This is the number one thing, and Jay hears me say it all the time, and every buyer and every email that I answer, look, I can tell you what I use, Jay can tell you what he uses, and any number of the good glassers that I know can tell you what they use, but what I can't do is I can't tell you what you see. Yeah. Now I can walk you through some things and go, okay, what do the outside edges look like? What does the center look like? When you move your binoculars, do you get any, what happens to you? Do you get the rolling ball effect? I can start going through all those things with you, but I cannot see what your eyes see. And it would be the difference of my brother, for instance. You put him behind Zeiss, and he absolutely loves and finds Zeiss really, really pleasing to the eye. You put him behind Swarovski's, and he'll tell you flat out, I just don't like that color.
Yeah.
There's a different hue that comes off of them. So that's not unusual. And some people see those colors better than others.
Okay.
So it would be really interesting to kind of do a little experiment with that.
Awesome. Dave, thanks so much for your question, and I'll make sure you and Cody get together after this. So thanks for calling in.
All right. Thank you so much, Jay, and thanks, Cody.
Yeah, hey, thank you, sir. Have a great day, bud.
You too.
Okay, guys, we got a bunch of questions from Instagram. I put it out there that I was going to be doing a podcast with Cody Nelson, the optics manager at GoHunt.com. So we've got questions coming off Instagram, and we also have a few call-in questions coming from listeners and Instagram followers, which is going to be fun. First of all, Cody, how you doing?
Jay, I'm doing real good, bud. Just happy to be on the podcast again and trying to help people out. It's the season is upon us. It's gotten really busy. Even more so than it was, and because last time I was talking to you, it was busy then, and it's more busy now. So we are growing by leaps and bounds, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate you helping out.
Yeah, for sure. It's been a lot of fun. It was a fun time calling Ed Foster, who won the June GoHunt.com giveaway. He was from Yuma and had purchased some stuff and actually won the $1,000 Go Hunt gift card. We're right here at the end of July, about to announce the new July winner, and then August we're going to have.
Jay, I got to say this because I know we're coming up on the end of the month, and people really need to understand. And I have to, and not that you haven't explained it, but if you spend $200, at Go Hunt, use the J Scott codes or I enter it for you, however it works, that's 200 entries into the system. So
right. So whether you spend $12 or $2,000,
yeah, $12
dollar for dollar entry.
That's exactly right.
You can buy anything either from the Go Hunt gear shop, going to GoHunt.com, going to the gear shop, enter the JScott19 promo code. You can also call Cody on the phone But the truth is, you could spend literally $1 and be a winner, or you could spend $5,000 and be a winner.
Exactly.
I just appreciate Go Hunt doing the raffle for the listeners,
well,
and I know Ed was super stoked
Jay,
to win.
He's contacted me. See, he contacted me right after we called him, and then he emailed me one time, and then he emailed me again. And he has been so fun because. And he bought a lot of gear with that. I mean, he did not shy. I mean, he bought a ton of gear with that $1,000. So, excuse me. I think he was as happy as can be.
All right, let's dive into the questions here. We've got a question from Brandon_Yazzie7. He says, Vortex Diamondback Binos 10x50s ?
The Diamondback is certainly one of the entry levels from Vortex. I think it's a decent piece of glass, and especially for that around that $250 mark. I think you're like right at I want to say it's $240 for that piece of glass. And just so you know, and Jay, we were going to talk about this later, but I'll throw this in there now. We can recap on it. Vortex just released or I should say re-released their new Diamondback HDs, and so I would tell people to get out there and take a look at them, do a little research, because they're Vortex has been obviously very aggressive with releasing product this season, and we actually just received the new Diamondback HDs. And I would tell people to take a good look at them, and hit me up for any questions, because I think they're a great little product, and certainly for an entry level bino, I think they're awesome.
Okay. Another question from
and by the way, if he's also talking about a 10x50, I noticed he did say 10x50, correct?
Correct.
So you're gonna gather a lot more light. Than the 42s, and I think those would be equally as good off of a tripod as if not better than the 1042s. So anyway, I hope that answers his question.
Okay, AZ Nico, Nikko. In your opinion, what are the key elements to look for when purchasing a first spotting scope?
Wow. There's kind of a lot to consider. It's I think people really need to think about what the main job of the spotting scope they're buying. I think they need to consider weight as a factor, size as a factor. I mean, if you're a backpacker and you're going to go lug around a giant spotting scope, some people buy spotting scopes and realize, holy cow, these are a lot bigger than what I thought they were. I think they need to consider what they're bringing with them. I think that should be first and foremost, the job at hand, and then how does that spotting scope fit in my gear list. But I would tell you, Jay, the 65s are going to be a little bit less in power, but a little bit lighter weight, and obviously a smaller size, and then you have going to have a lot more power with the 85s. And, they're also going to gather more light, but you're going to have a much heavier and a much bigger piece of gear. So, and I would just always tell people that depending on the job at hand, if you're asking something to look, at a mile or better than a mile, I think that the bigger glass and the better glass always wins. So when you're looking at those long distances, you got to have the best glass you can get, if that means stepping up from 500 to 1,000 or 1,000 to 2,000, I think the better glass you get, the more you're going to get out of it.
Well, and I think, too, a spotting scope, for those out there thinking about getting a spotting scope, and for those that already have spotting scopes, it's a really important piece of your equipment, because it's what you're using to classify and verify and decide if it's something you're worth going after. You've already spotted it with your binoculars mounted on a tripod. Now you pop the spotting scope up and you want to be able to say, is it worth me hiking across 3 canyons 3 miles over there to go after this buck. So when people are thinking about spotting scopes from my perspective, I'm thinking you need to spend absolutely as much money as you can afford for that, because you're going to, for every penny you spend, you're going to get that back in quality. And what you're already trying to do is you're trying to classify, and you're trying to save yourself a trip from a 3-mile hike. And if you buy a lower-end spotting scope or buy at the low end of the spectrum of what you can afford, you're going to be making that hike and going, dang it, I got all the way over here, and it's a 3x3, and I thought it was a 4x4. And if you would have had that next step up on scope, you would have seen, hey, it's not a 4x4, I want a 4x4, and I'm going to keep looking, which would then make you not have to hike an hour and a half. And in the meantime, you're glassing other bucks and going, okay, I found what I'm looking for right here across the canyon from me. Yes, this is the shooter, I want it. I think the next question is, whether you go with a straight or whether you go with an angled. The debate, rages on, but for me, target acquisition with a straight, I'm much, much faster because I'm glassing from a tripod always with my binos. I literally pop the binos off, pop the spotting scope in, and I want to be looking, and I get them calibrated where the spotting scope is going to look at the exact same spot as my binos.
Absolutely.
So I pop the spotting scope on, and I don't have to search for it. It's automatically right in my field of view. And
Jay,
an angled, I'm going to have to either move the center post, or I'm going to have to move my position to either turn, granted, people tell me all the time with an angled that they turn it to the side. I argue that you still have to move your body position in order to look at the angled spotting scope turned to the side. Whereas a straight, you immediately are right onto the target. I get it where bucks are, working their way up a ridge line and they're about to top over. I switch to the spotting scope. I'm on straight. I go immediately there, and I can go, that buck isn't worth me going over. Whereas I sit next to guys with angled, and by the time they get it on there, the buck's gone over, and they either have to hike over there or they have to sit there all day wondering what the heck that buck they saw going over the ridge. So that's kind of my take.
And the other thing is, too, is again, knowing the job at hand. If you know that you're glassing out of your truck on the winter range or something like that, and I get it. There's a lot of people that are hunting antelope, and they're covering tons of ground, just looking at different valleys and whatnot, and you're in your truck a lot, and you want to use an angle that you just got to know what your job at hand is, and really think about how much you're going to use it, where you're going to use it, and then, obviously which one works best for you. So I think, we've pretty much covered what a guy needs to really think about. Yes, sir.
Introduce yourself, and then let's fire away into the questions.
Alrighty, thank you very much, guys. My name is Abraham. I'm calling in from Phoenix, Arizona, and I just had a question pertaining to the use of spotting scopes to glass over big country. I have not purchased or used a spotting scope for scouting animals, and I just have my 10 power binoculars. So I wanted to know what the best strategy of picking up animals with my binoculars and then putting a scope on there, or should I just stick to using one or the other at a time?
Well, Jay, I know you can answer this too. Abraham, I guess the biggest thing I would ask is that, and maybe I shouldn't ask it. It's just, it comes down to a distance thing for me, because I would always tell you that I typically use my binoculars, and I always say 85% of the time, because I think that's essentially about what it amounts to. And then when I see game moving, or I see game that I think looks like, a deer bedded or elk bedded or something, moving, I then verify it or then try to, judge it, trophy judge, whatever we're doing with the spotting scope. So distance, because you're using 10s only, I think distance is a factor, because there are obviously some places that you can put your spotting scope up on your tripod after, you've been looking and look farther at, hillsides and say, okay, I can see in there, and that would be totally normal for you to do that. My thinking is that is there a pair of 15s in your future, or are you trying to stay with 10s and a spotting scope? So, I want to make sure of that.
Well, certainly. I'd like to pick up a pair of 15s just because most of the hunting that I've been doing is here in Arizona now, and I've seen where that's incredibly beneficial over a pair of 10s. So I kind of got the idea of getting the spotting scope on recommendation from a good friend of mine that definitely said that you could certainly look over large swaths of country with that spotting scope. But you're saying please correct me if I'm wrong.
I would tell you that I would just tell you that my first thought and my first thinking is that to use 10s and then to go over big amounts of country with a spotting scope, the truth, I think it's incredibly inefficient. Because I think that you're gonna, if you're used to looking
at spotting scope, Cody.
Well, I think that's what he's saying, that he wants to use 10s, and then when there's places that you can't really reach with the 10s, start glassing with the spotting scope. And I would just tell you that I think if you kind of reverse that and went with a set of 15s first, I think you would have a way much easier time, and certainly from an eye stress, or eye fatigue, you would find yourself incredibly more efficient doing it that way, because I really don't use my spotting scope to glass, because it's so much of a smaller field of view that if you looked at the same place at 30 power versus 15, I don't have figures in front of me at the moment, but you're probably like almost double the field of view in the 15s. And I just think it's way easier to break country apart and with your both eyes relaxed, your eyes seeing what's called bioptic vision anyway, and that means that you can take in more detail and you put things together better and differentiate between things when you have your eyes relaxed and seeing together than you do just by seeing, one at a time. Does that make sense?
Naturally. So you're saying don't try to make up, for a pair of 15s with the spotting scope. Just go with the 15s before I even jump over to something like attempting to glass with the spotting scope.
Go ahead, Jay.
Well, I might jump in here too, Abe, and tell you that I think you would be just fine if you had a pair of 10s and then you bought a spotting scope, but you were buying the spotting scope you spotted a deer, you want to see what kind of buck it is, how many points it has. You spotted an elk, you want to see how big it is, how many points, if it's a buck you want to go after. If you're talking about you want to clarify and be able to categorize and classify that particular animal, then I would say you definitely need a spotting scope. If you're more wanting to just find animals, if you're a coos deer hunter, 15s are imperative, but you can do a lot of damage with a good pair of 10s and a great spotting scope. I think what Cody's trying to say is don't think that you're going to get the spotting scope, though, and use that as a panner where you're going to pan around in country, because what you're going to do is you're going to miss stuff. Sure, you can put a spotting scope up on a saddle and be like, I wonder what's up there. But you are way better off with a higher power magnification binocular, actually using both eyes trying to find an animal. But a whole different story is if you've spotted the animal with the 10s, now it's so far away because of the lack of magnification, you need a spotting scope to say, okay, is this a 3-point buck or a 4-point buck? Does he have eye guards or not? So are you looking to get a spotting scope because that's what you want, or are you looking for more magnification to find the animal?
The latter, or only because the place that I'm going here has an antler point restriction, and before I glass up what I assume is a buck, I'd like to, of course, certainly make sure that it's even worth the walk over.
Right. So hearing you say that, and Cody would agree, you need a spotting scope to be able to go, I've found the animal, now I just need to classify it and be able to say, what kind of buck is it? Is it worth my time of going over there?
And by the way, Abraham, there's been a lot of people, and I'm not trying to sway somebody and say that it's wrong, because it's not wrong. But there has been a lot of people that have been incredibly successful with a pair of 10s mounted on a tripod and a spotting scope. And I've said that a lot on the podcast, and I tell those kind of stories every day. So if that's what you're trying to do, I completely agree with Jay, that if you're verifying and you're qualifying what it is you're doing at that, that's a whole different story. So really the argument that we should have now is we should talk about whether you're going to get straight or angled, because that, to me, that's a much bigger, important thing about what you're trying to do than, getting a set of 15s. You can always get the 15s later if that's what you're trying to do.
Naturally.
And I'll just tell you, like, what I think about the straight versus the angled. If you are using a set of binoculars, you find a deer, and you're going to verify whether it's, a point restricted or not, or whether it's an elk and it's point restricted, then I am going to use a straight, because I want to be able to I want to lock down my tripod so it's not moving, pull the binoculars off, slide the spotting scope on, and still be looking at relatively the same field of view that I was looking at through the binoculars. And for me and my purposes, I got to go with a straight almost every time on that deal.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. The target acquisition for me personally, when I'm sitting on my butt with the tripod and I find a deer through my binos, I pop the binos off, and I want to be able to pop the spotting scope and remain and keep my sitting position exactly the same. I don't want to have to tilt up over. I don't want to have to lift the center post up or down. I don't want to have to raise my butt. I want to be able to go right from binos right to spotting scope. And for me, I've found that straight works better for sure. And any other follow-up questions to that, Abraham?
No, that went into the second part, which was actually determining the advantages of straight versus angled. I was leaning towards straight for the reasons that you mentioned, and you just confirmed that decision there.
Yeah. Well, anytime you have an angle, go ahead. Go ahead. What I was saying is that, hey, look, there's times when I know that an angled is more comfortable, but the bottom line is that when I pull my binoculars off, I then have to lower my center post, hope that I get that height correct, and then got to put the spotting scope on, and then, to me, it's just a lot more movement than what's necessary. So I would just tell you that I think you're making a great choice, and if I can help you with your choices and what direction you want to go, I'd be more than happy to discuss that. If not, we can do that obviously at a later time.
Naturally. I'll be checking out a few spotting scopes in the meantime just to get a feel for them. But obviously the purchase will have to make, because once you buy them, you own them, and I don't have to worry about that sort of stuff.
Well, and let me leave you with one thing, and I don't like to. I can't stress enough that when you're looking long distances, it's my personal belief that the better the glass, the better it's going to help you in those long distance situations. So I would just tell you that, buy the best glass you can afford for what you're trying to do.
Naturally.
Yeah. I think the better the glass, the better the long distance viewing, by far.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Abe, thanks for your question. You have any tags coming up that you're going to be hunting?
I've got that California Eastern Sierra mule deer hunt in September. So awesome. I'm excited for that. And then I got a leftover antelope tag for Utah and a Coos tag down south in November.
Awesome.
Oh, nice.
So you got a pretty busy fall.
I'm looking forward to it, and I want to thank you guys very much for answering my questions and taking the time to do so.
Well,
fantastic,
thank you.
Man. Thanks for trusting us to answer them, and feel free. We're going to do this more, so I always appreciate your questions and such. You do a good job of getting in the mix of it, and I appreciate that.
Likewise, gentlemen. You guys take care.
Okay.
Thank you.
Likewise. Bye.
Next question is from George Warner 2. He says, I upgraded from Zeiss 1040s to Zeiss 15x56. Do you have any tips to gain steady hands? My answer would be, George, you should never, absolutely zero, never be glassing with 15x56 power handheld.
Yeah,
I don't care
got
who
to
you
get a
are.
tripod.
You've got to get a tripod. There is no answer for steady hands. Granted, you can spot some elk, you can spot some big animals, you can spot some bears, but day in and day out for consistency, you have to put those 15s on a tripod, or else I would have rather had you stick with the 10s. Buying the 15s and not using a tripod, I would rather see you handhold 10s because I don't care who you are, you cannot consistently find animals hand-holding 15 power binoculars.
Yeah, and here's the best part. If he bought the 1560 or 1556 Conquest HDs, it comes with a binocular mount in it. So, all you have to do is a tripod. I mean a binocular mount, a tripod mount.
Yeah.
So, right. It's in there. So, if you're not using it, I'm flat out telling you, you are missing game, and I would just tell you flat out, get yourself a tripod, period. Any tripod, period.
Yeah. I would say, just to answer his question, you can sit on your butt, you can put your elbows on your knees, you can try and steady those binoculars as much as you possibly can. But again, it's like buying a Porsche and putting diesel fuel in it. It just doesn't make sense to buy the 15s and not put them on a tripod. Next question is from Killenstem. I guess that's how you say it. I just bought a 30-06. I plan to hunt muleys and elk with it. Suggestion on a scope under $1,000, rifle scope.
Oh yeah, there's the Vortex, HS 4-16 with a BDC on it, or you can do a custom turret. There's a Leupold VX5, with a custom turret or MOA on it. There's a number of scopes. If he'll look at GoHunt.com. I'd be more than happy to go through them with him. He wants to call me. But
isn't
any
there
one of the scopes,
rifle scope as well.
Oh yeah. There's a 4-16, a V4 4-16. That is all going to be right in that $1,000 range. But I think that there's honestly there's a Swarovski 4-12 by 50 with a custom turret that you can do. I think he's got a ton of options, and I think he'll take that Lot 6 and he'll be able to take that thing anywhere in North America and have fun with it.
So I think it comes down to call Cody at 702-847-8747 extension 2. Talk to Cody on the phone. He can go through every single different model of rifle
Correct.
Scope and figure out exactly what's best for you. Let's jump to the next question. This comes from Honey Badger 2038. Have you ever looked through Maven Optics? Just ordered a pair of 11x42s, B2s.
Oh, well, those should be 1145s.
I'm sorry, 11x45 B2s to try out. I have not looked through a pair of Maven Optics. I understand they're a direct-to-consumer model. Cody, I'll let you field this question.
Yeah, I think that Maven is making a good product. I think that they certainly are taking that Kuiu, kind of model, and what I hope is that that savings is being equated into better glass. I've always thought of most of the Maven stuff to fall in line with certainly like the Conquests and from Zeiss and the Razors from Vortex. I think they make a good product. I believe that a lot of what their stuff is they used to the guys that used to work or guys at Maven used to work at Brunton. I think that the binoculars are very similar to the Brunton, models, even though I think they put a really cool looking custom, spin on it, and I think they're good looking binoculars. Not to be personally, they haven't worked for me, and I'll just leave it at that. It's not a bad thing, but this is why I always stress to people: make sure that you put yourself behind the binocular. Make sure you put them through the focusing, and make sure that 100% you can focus and you can, run it through the diopter setting and make sure it's 100% for you. But yeah, they're a good quality company. They've obviously been here for a few years now, and yeah, I mean they're obviously doing something pretty right.
Hunt to eat AZ _AZ Swarovski worth extra price over Razor UHDs enough to justify the cost difference. I get this question a lot, Cody. Somehow Vortex has done an amazing job with their marketing where people actually are believing that Vortex is now going to be part of the big three, and I do believe they've done a good job. Personally, I've looked through a lot of Vortex. They make some really good products, but when you match apples for apples, I think Swarovski, I think Zeiss, I think Leica still has a leg up on them, even though they're closing that distance. I'd be curious to see what you say about these UHDs.
The UHDs, first and foremost, I've been able to look through the 1042s and the 1850 or 1856s. I have not had the 12x50s in my hands yet. I don't expect a whole lot of different results from the 12x50s. And Jay, I think you're absolutely right. I think Vortex basically, went out and said, you know what, we're going to up our game. We're going to invest in this piece of glass. We want to make it a better piece of glass. Basically it's an entirely new optical system for them. Do I think that they are pressing or they're certainly raising the bar on the big three, and for people that don't know what we mean by big three, it's Swarovski, Zeiss, and Leica. Do I think that they're surpassing? I think that's hard to say, because I still believe that there's pieces of glass out there the best in the world. I think they're doing a great job at certainly pushing up on the big three and making them earn their keep, so to speak. And I think that this is going to be a really, really good product for people that are certainly not wanting to spend the extra money. And Jay, I'll say it, and I try not to pull any punches and say things that aren't true, but for my eyes, typically speaking, like a 1042 SLC or a 1042 EL, man, that's really hard to beat for me. If you want to compare apples to apples and compare everything right down the line, for those, that's for me and for what my eyes see. But I tend to be an optics snob in that sense, that I want the best possible glass I can get, and I want every optical advantage I can get to help me find game more efficiently. And so I will stand by that 100%. That while I think the UHDs are good, and I think they've done a really good thing, I don't know that they're quite 100% what Swarovski or the the Leicas Ultra HDs or whatever it is.
Yeah, and I'd like to point out too, like when I make my opinion, I don't know Swarovski, Zeiss, Leica, Vortex, Leupold. I don't owe any of them anything. None of them sponsor me. I don't have, I can call it as it is. But I think it's fantastic, and I actually am cheering for Vortex and other companies that aren't the big three to push the bar, because for us as consumers to be able to get the best products we can get our hands on, I'm in the position where I can buy whatever binoculars I want to buy, and I can use any piece of gear that I want to use. And I'm going to use what's best for me. Whereas someone else, the best they can afford is Vortex, and the UHDs, they're going to be doing backflips for the money and the value that they can get out of them. So I just want to make sure that people listening don't say Jay's a Swarovski snob. Well, for right now, Swarovski has been at the top of the heap for me for a long, long time. I am cheering for all of the other companies out there to knock them and the top other two off the rung of the ladder. And, I want consumers to have the best choices out there, and I will use whatever I think is the best. I just want to be clear that I think it's great that Vortex is pushing the envelope, but I also want to be clear that, just because they have some high-profile people pushing their product does not mean that it's the best on the market. And I mean that in no disrespect to anyone other than, for my eyes, Swarovski, Leica, and Zeiss are better optically than the competition. And I would like nothing more than all of these 4, 5, 6 other companies to continue to push that bar. And if Swarovski, Zeiss, and Leica sit on their hind end and they don't innovate, these companies will catch them, and I will switch product. I just wanted to make that clear to the listeners. I've had a few people DM me and say, you're just biased to Swarovski. No, I'm biased to the best. If it's the best for my eye, that's the one I pick. So I put it out there and challenge the companies, like, come up with a better product that's going to beat these, the ones I've been using for years, and if you can beat them, I'll use them.
I just remember, in thinking about, when all this optics stuff really started to happen, and the fact of it is that it's not, some people take it almost as like offensive, or like you're, like it's an ego thing, and I'll just flat out tell everybody, this is why many, many, many years ago when I was selling, and still just like I am today, I always come back to and I fall back on one thing. You have to put yourself behind the glass. You have to make a decision for yourself. And I tell people, buy the best glass you can afford. The truth be told is that I love the fact that these companies are pushing on the big three, like they are, because
for sure.
I think the big three are always trying to figure out how to do things better. But when people kind of keep pushing on them, it kind of keeps everybody honest and keeps everybody going, okay, well, we better make sure that our stuff is good to go.
Right.
The other thing I wanted,
and that's what we
absolutely.
want.
And I think the other thing that needs to be mentioned is that, Jay, I'll also, I know guys that have glassed with less than whatever, the most expensive glass. And there are guys that honestly, that even just with a good solid piece of glass, I mean, whatever. I don't really want to get into the names of them. But if you will put that piece of glass on a tripod and you will take the time and start picking country apart, it doesn't mean that because you have Vortex or I have Nikon or Leupold, or at a certain point it becomes using that tool the way that we're talking about and spending the time behind the glass, slowing down and being methodical and being patient, and at that every urge that you think, I want to get up and walk away from here because I'm not finding everything, and you keep your butt in saddle, and you keep your eyes peeled, and you keep your head to the glass, and all of a sudden you see this giant buck or a spike or a doe or whatever. I don't care. It works. It flat out works. And I would just tell people that go buy the best glass you can get, put it on a tripod, and get out there and work your butt off and spend the time, and I promise you, get good at your craft, do your thing, and you will be rewarded with it over time. You absolutely will be rewarded with it.
I think we see cases of that all the time. I know people that buy Swarovski optics, pair of 15s, and I mean, they don't even know which end to look through. I'd rather have the guy that has the old pair of loopholes or vortex that are beat up and that he's used for years and that he's very comfortable with his eyes in those binoculars. Just because you buy the best doesn't mean you're going to glass better. You bring up a good point that yes, if they're clearer, yes, if they gather more light, yes, if they, have better edge-to-edge clarity over time and knowing how to glass, you're going to probably pick up more animals. But again, I know people that buy new snow skis and they can't ski any better. They buy new golf clubs, they buy new tennis racket, and it doesn't do them any good. So this isn't a deal where you can buy yourself a game. But once you know the basics and once you can sit comfortably behind binoculars mounted on a tripod, definitely you will start seeing the benefit of buying the best binoculars you can afford. Let's get to the next question. Yeah. Grand Slam 10X says, what did you not like about the BTX? I assume this is directed at me.
I think that's you.
I own the BTX. I own the BTX. I have it in the 65 and the 95, and I like the BTX. The only thing I would say for me is I've always done straight. I've always looked through straight binoculars other than the Kowas, and I've always looked through a straight spotting scope. I personally like a non-angled, I like a straight setup. So I went to the Swarovski twin spotters, and I tend to use those more than the BTX. Now, I will tell you, a guy like Greg Krogh in Nevada, I've had him on the podcast, and he likes the fact that the BTX is angled. It's more comfortable for his neck. So I would tell you, don't just listen to, if it's not my comfort, it may be comfortable for 99% of the people out there. They are a phenomenal piece of glass. They are unbelievably lightweight compared to what you get out of them. And it's a great piece of glass. Cody sells the pants off of BTX, and Swarovski has, honestly hit a home run with the BTX system, where you can have a 65, an 85, and a 95 millimeter objective.
I always come back
phenomenal.
To that. Yeah, I come back to that whole thing, Jay, with the BTX. And, we can all debate, because, look, your twin spotters or, whether you're, it's the Dr. Optics that are straight or the Kowas, or I still come back to one thing. Your straights, your twin spotters are about as close as can be, because they're at the end of the day, they're 7.5 pounds?
Yeah.
So show me another piece of glass that you can weigh 6 pounds and that you can actually get away with a mid-weight
medium tripod.
Tripod. So right there I've shaved basically 2 pounds, and then whatever you've saved between the other optics in that category, you show me another optic that you can look with the comfortability and the detail of those distances and have that in such an easy carryable package. And I'm sorry, but this literally, I think, is the game-changing package that's letting everybody else kind of have a slice of the pie, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, I switched from the Kowas that were 14, and the tripod was 14. I had 28 pounds. I cut that by far in half, and exactly. I can carry the BTX anywhere and get basically the same performance out of that at half the weight. So, from a long-range perspective, people wanting to glass further, longer, more comfortable, I mean, the BTX is awesome. And so, I don't know where it got misconstrued that I don't like the BTX. The only thing I don't like is I'm not a fan of the angled. I have a feeling
and you've always said that.
If it was a straight, but I've always been against angled, always. Let's go to the next question.
Sure.
thoughts on this is Blakey's 21. Thoughts on the new tripod and head combo from Go Hunt, just got from Sue.
Oh, yeah, Jay, the tripod that I've been working on for a while, I was finally able to kind of put it together and piece that kit together, and so right now we've got a, it's their T series, and it's a T004. I believe this is a BX, which it comes with kind of a smaller, lighter weight tripod. Would be kind of similar to the Slick 634, maybe a little bit smaller, but it comes with a Sue a VA5 head, and it comes at a price of $199. So first of all, the head alone is now it's $179 head. So the head alone is the fact that you're getting the head and that tripod for, basically $25 more. I mean, I think if you price the tripod out by itself, I think the total savings ends up being like $65 or $70. I think it's a very usable tripod. No, is it a medium weight tripod and is it meant to hold a set of koas on it? No, it's not designed for that. But for somebody I would tell you that I think this is one of the best beginner, or if you just had to have a tripod, I think this is one of the best packages I've ever seen. And and most of it is because that head is so darn good. That I truly believe it's one of the best values that I've ever seen in the market. So I was able to put together a few kits, and we brought them in, and they seem to be selling real well. And the people that have got them, everybody seems to be really happy with them. So we're gonna continue it as long as we can.
Okay, next question is best all-around tripod. Again, that question is a little bit vague because you don't know what he or she's trying to use the tripod for. But Cody, I've used for years, probably 15 years, I've used a Slick tripod. The 733, 735, 634. I mean, I forget the model. I think it's actually a 733 that's probably 12 or 15 years old, and I still use it. It's still in my, it's still held up fine, carbon fiber. I think it goes down to what are you trying to use it for? Using, a set of koas, that's a whole different discussion, but I assume he's talking about just basically a tripod that works for everything. I think it's pretty hard to 733 Slick with a Sue VA5 head is about as good as you can get.
Two tripods that come to mind when you say kind of do everything, and you'll laugh at this because this is what we all started using way back in the day. But
Manfrotto.
today's Manfrotto 290 Extra, and I don't care whether you get the aluminum one or you get the carbon fiber.
Carbon fiber.
You're at $140 for the aluminum, and you're at $275 for the carbon fiber, and you put a VA5 head on there. I don't know that between the 733 Slick and the 290 Extras, carbon or aluminum, those three tripods right there have been in and around our stuff for, well, I'm going to say 20 years now, going on the 290s.
Yeah, for sure.
I
mean, it's just hard to beat, and it's affordable, and they're bomb-proof, and you can use them and abuse them, and if you have to get one 3 or 4 or 5 years from now, get another one. The cost-effectiveness of them, they just work. I mean, they work and they hold up.
Absolutely.
And they're a great. Cody, I want to take a second here.
Yeah.
I want to make sure the listeners know that Go Hunt, for the month of June and the month of July, and now for the month of August, is doing, I say, kind of a J. Scott giveaway, if you will.
It is.
If you buy something from the Go Hunt Gear Shop, whether if you go to GoHunt.com and buy from the gear shop and you enter in the promo code JScott19, you're going to be entered into a drawing to win a $1,000 Go Hunt Gear Shop gift card. If you spend $10, you get 10 entries. If you spend $3,000, you get 3,000 entries. Dollar for dollar entry. We're just about to announce the July winner. Now the month of August is running. We're going to also be running the promo then. Lots and lots of customers have taken advantage of that. You can also call Cody directly, 702-847-8747. Purchase anything, whether it be optics or through the gear shop. Cody can help you. You are automatically entered into that drawing. If you say, I want to be in the J. Scott drawing, you tell Cody the J. Scott 19, he puts you down, and you're automatically entered. We just interviewed Ed Foster. He won the $1,000 gift card in June, and we're about to announce the July winner, and we're going to do the same thing in August. I want people to know that. I want to thank Go Hunt for their sponsorship. I also want to remind people that the Go Hunt Insider right now, there's a 30-day free trial. So if you go to GoHunt.com/JScott, follow the prompts, you're going to be able to be an insider member for 30 days. You can check out all your states, all your different animals, all your harvest data, all your draw odds, all your harvest statistics, the strategy articles. Just like you are an insider member for 30 days, you get a free trial. You can see what all of the fuss is about. Go to GoHunt.com/JScott. I also want to thank Kuiu Ultralight Hunting. They've been a very loyal sponsor to this podcast. Brendan and the crew over there. Go to Kuiu, that's KUIU.com. I also want to thank PhoneScope. PhoneScope's been great with the digiscoping adapters. I use my iPhone X to gather. I'm here in about a month going to be over at the Ot6 Ranch videoing, PhoneScoping a bunch of elk. Use the JScott19 promo code. You're going to get a 10% discount. And then last but not least, the Onyx Maps group. OnyxMaps.com. Use the JScott19 promo code. You're going to get a 20% discount. Cody, the next question I have here is...
Fire away.
Looking to split the difference between the bino and spotter, 1250 or 1550. Looking to split the difference between bino and spotter, 1250, 1550. I assume that means he has 10 by 42s and a spotter, and he's trying to get something in between.
I think so, but here's the question I have. The only 1550 I know of used to be the...
I think he means 15 by 56.
But there is a 15 by 50 Viper.
Okay.
And I'm going to be honest with you, I thought they quit making that. I've never been a big fan of the 1550s. If it's not 1556 or 1560, I think you start actually the exit pupil starts diminishing. I would rather see a 12 by 50. If I just, based on what I'm seeing in the question, if I just had to pick one, I would pick 12 by 50s because they're brighter and a wider field of view. Realizing it's trying to bridge the gap, but I would go with a brighter piece of glass than the darker for this reason. So. That's what I would tell him.
Okay, and guys, on these questions, you got to be exact, or else we can't understand the question. Next question, _Bush. How much better is the 95 millimeter versus the 65 millimeter in terms of field of view and light intake? Swaro ATX. So he's talking about the Swarovski angled 95 versus the 65. And I don't have the field of view off the top of my head. Cody, you probably know it, but the light intake is definitely better on the 95 millimeter objective.
By
You've
far.
got by far. The 95 is gathering more light than any spotting scope that I've looked through. I know the Zeiss Harpia 95 is also, people are ranting and raving about it as well as far as light gathering.
Yeah, Jay, I would just, I mean, we beat this up in the past, but why not beat it up again? My favorite piece of gear with the BTX is the 85, because you're getting a little bit wider field of view, and you're getting the brightest of the three.
But he's asking about the, he's not asking about the BTX, he's just asking about the spotting scope.
So, I'm sorry, was it just the spotting scope, or ATS,
Yeah.
STS?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so let's put that in perspective. I still think that the ATS STX 65 is, I think the eyepiece is so good that I would rather have that piece than I would the old 20 by 60 by 80 HD. I think
I
that
agree.
much of it. Now, I would still, I still find myself wanting to push up to the 85, but that's just a personal thing. But because typically I'm digiscoping, and I always want as much light as I can get. But that's a personal thing.
Okay, so the field of view on the 95 versus the field of view on the 65.
Yeah, so the 65 at 1,000 yards, you've got 124 feet at the 25, and at the 60 power, you've got 68 feet. So, and that's compared to 104 at 30 power, and there, there's a 5 power difference there, and then 57 at the at 70 power. So,
Okay.
So it doesn't. The 95 does not fall off as much as you would think it would because of the power difference.
Do all Vortex have warranty?
Absolutely. Yeah,
most of the companies have some sort of warranty or another, right?
Yeah, I mean, Vortex is always been backed by their no fault warranty. I know nothing about any changes or anything. So yeah, they're still, I think if you look right on the side of every box they sell, it says backed by their guaranteed warranty.
Okay, this question is from Mountain Strongman. Hey, just curious what your opinion is for a good intermediate level spotter. What would a couple intermediate spotters be for you, Cody?
Oh, I'd tell him, look at the Vortex Razor, and I would certainly look at the Leupold BX5 Santiam. And that one, by the way, Jay, will be loaded up here on the website for us pretty quick. But both of those spotting scopes, fit that bill. And I think you could even, it's a 2000, which may or may not be considered intermediate, but I think that the Zeiss Conquest Gavia 30 to 60 by 85 needs to be thrown in there too. So yeah, those three is what I would look at.
Okay, this comes, I can't pronounce the name. Can we have Cody review the Vortex Vulture 15s?
Oh yeah. Hey, look, it's an entry level 15. I think they do a great job for what they are. And by the way, it's Vortex Vulture HD 15 by 56. Put them on a tripod. They're going to be better than not having anything at all. And I can tell you that, they do a decent job in for a $499 15. We sell quite a few of them, and, I don't get complaints, and I think people are generally very, very happy with them. So, again, it's an entry-level 15, and I think for $500, I think they're a great value.
Pros and cons of Swarovski ATX STX spotters versus Vortex Razor HD spotters, quality versus price.
Well, I hate to say that we've already covered all this, but I think, for the most part we have. The X series, quite frankly, you got to look at the way that they changed the way that eyepieces are built. if you look now, the eyepiece is twice as big as it used to be, and they made it modular. So I think it's incredibly difficult to have anything, be more worth, what the versatility is of the STX, because there's like 7 different pieces you can put together for different packages. And again, I think the X series is one of the best pieces of glass in the industry. Zeiss Harpia is right in there too. But the fact of it is that if you want something that's a little bit more economical and a solid piece of glass, then you got to look at the Vortex razors. But yeah, I think there's a lot more to go into, and if that person wants to call me, I'd be more than happy to break it all down in terms of field of views and everything. But fact of it is that it comes down to the glass for me.
Best tripod to buy anywhere from $100 to $200.
Again, we have that package going on right now. That's $199, and I think that's a wonderful package. I also think that a guy's got to look at the Manfrotto 290 extra aluminum for $140, and you can put a 700 RC2 head on it for another $90. And yeah, it's a little more expensive than 2, but boy, is that tripod's been around for a very, very long time, and very trustworthy, and will do the job.
This is S21_2121. Do you see Swarovski coming out with a new line of binos like Vortex just did with ultra high definition? My answer would be these companies are all playing with ultra high definition, high definition. It's marketing. Swarovski already is, in my opinion, ultra high definition. What's your answer, Cody?
Yeah, Jay. When you look at the HT series from Zeiss, the Ultra HD Pluses from Leica and the Swarovski ELs, and you're already talking about the most high definition glass there is in the industry. So it's as a matter of fact, those companies are really kind of starting to go away from the HD, or not, because there's no governing board saying, well, this HD is the same as that HD.
Right. So, it's just marketing. But I would tell the big three out there, get your butt in gear and keep innovating, because I want better and better and better. I want to, 10 years from now, look back at what we're using now and say, can you believe we were even using it? That's what I want as a consumer.
Exactly. Yep. I agree.
Derek_Robinson24, the Fury HDs, how are they? ?
God, we've sold an absolute boatload of them. Our customer base has been incredibly, they've done really, really well. I would tell you that if you're wanting a simple binocular that is going to do the line of sight and the angle for you, I absolutely think that they're worth the price tag, and I think you ought to look into a pair. You can tripod mount them if you have to. I think they're absolutely worth it.
Sean Booth 4, thoughts on Vortex Viper 12x50 for Arizona deer and Unit 35A? I think that would be a good choice. Glassing for coos. He says deer and 35A. It could be mule deer, but I speculate that he's talking about coos. I think it's probably a good choice. 12x50 is always a good field of view. What do you think, Cody?
12x50, I hope he's using a tripod. You can get away with using a 12x50 as a chest glass, once in a while. I don't think it's the best for that. But if he's using a tripod with it, I think they can be incredibly. I think it can be incredibly valuable. Period.
JD Watts 25, best tripod for backcountry high altitude spot and stock running Vortex Vipers 10x50. I think we talked about it. I think that new head and setup that you've got for $199 I also think that Slick 634 would be a great tripod with that Blu-ray VA5.
There's two. Yeah, the 634 and the 635. The only real difference being is that the 35 is a 5-leg and the 34 is a 4-leg, 4 extension versus a 5 extension. So the truth of it is that the 635 compacts by another 3 or 4 inches. So if a guy's really, really pack conscious, he can get away with that tripod. But if I had to go with just one tripod for that lightweight, do everything, Jay, you mentioned I'd look real hard at the 634, and I'd couple it with a VA5 head. That for me, that would be my kind of go-to lightweight.
Rainwater Connor, if I'm trying to glass deer at 1,000+ yards away, how well would the 10x42s do? Well, 1,000+ is a little misleading. Is it 1,000, or are you wanting to look at 5,000? 1,000 yards of 10x42s would be fantastic, I think. You start getting, when it says plus and you're talking 2,000, 3,000, that's when you're starting to get where the 10s a 15 would be better.
I agree.
We've kind of hit on that.
Yep.
STS 80 or ATX 85, mostly Colorado archery deer and elk. That's from Flint.Hayden. The STS 80 obviously is the old Swarovski spotting scope. It's a straight. The older eyepiece, the older objective. Or the ATX 85. So that's the new modular system. ATX, that's obviously ace, and so that's an angled. Do you like angled or straight? I think the new glass and the new technology and the modular system is better.
Right. Well, and here's the thing I would tell. If he's asking me if this is a situation where he has a choice of both, only either or, I got to be honest with you. Even though I would prefer a straight, I'd rather the glass in the eyepiece is so good in the X series. I take the 85. I'm going with the better glass. Period.
Even though I never like angled, I would go with the better glass and the modularity and go with the new system rather than the old spotting scope.
Exactly.
What company has the best warranty in your opinion out there?
Well, that's always a hard question. Warranties are awesome when you have that assurance that the product that you're purchasing is going to be taken care of if something happens. I'd like to say that I normally don't buy products because of warranties. I buy products because of their reliability, and if something happens, I also want to make sure that company is, going to help me, going to stand by me, and is going to walk me through the process in an efficient manner. So, how can you not talk about Vortex's and Leupold's warranties and Zeiss's no-fault warranties, because those are awesome. I've had guys, roll over their binos with the truck, and I've had guys dump them off cliffs, and it's always nice to have, somebody, obviously replace that something, at no expense except for the shipping. But again, in terms of customer service and everything, Swarovski's always been, really good at walking you through the process and being, upfront and telling you exactly, where you stand and how long it's going to take, and, turning things around in a good manner. So that's always good. So, yeah, if you just have to go on warranty alone, it's, the no-fault warranties are pretty darn good.
Welcome to the show. Thanks for calling in. Let's hear your optics questions for Cody Nelson.
Yeah, you bet. Question. I have a 10-year-old son. I'm looking for a rifle scope under $400. One that's simple, so that I wasn't sure on getting the dial, for a turret or anything like that. But just something simple that is simple enough for him to use. He's shot a little bit and.
What caliber?
He has a 6.5. I'm sorry, he has a 6.5. Yes, sir.
Okay. So, and I have to ask the question, but I'm going to assume that you're trying to keep the yardage down.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So, here's the best thing about you doing what you're doing. A, I think it's fantastic you're getting your kid involved. That's wonderful. B,
right.
There's several scopes in this. You can spend anywhere from $200 to $500 and have a scope that is probably way more capable than what your son may or may not even remotely feel comfortable or should be doing at this time. So what I would tell you is that number one, if you look at like a VX3i, Leupold VX3i, 3.5 to 10 by 40, it's a $399 scope. You have the ability to, with the, I would get in just a simple, duplex scope, or just a regular crosshair. And
right.
I'm not sure how you're going to sight the gun in, but that's a whole different debate. But you could also do a CDS for him if you ever, wanted to slowly teach him how to, get into to being able to reach out to, 200, 300, 400 yards. You could do a CDS for him. There is we have a Diamondback 4 to 12 that's a $200 scope that will that also you can have a BDC in it, which is a bullet drop compensator. So you would sight it in so that it's like dead on at 200, and then at the next line down is 250, next line down is 300, so forth, that kind of thing. The other scope that I think is a real good scope is there's also a Vortex 4 to 12. 4 to 16 by 44 that has a BDC in it, but you can also do a custom turret for it as well. So I think you have a lot of options in that price range.
Right.
But I would just make sure you have good solid mounts. Make sure that the relationship between the gun, the mounts, and the scope is 100%, and get it sighted in correctly, and and from then it's just obviously putting him through his paces and letting him get familiar and lots of dry firing, right?
Right. Yeah, he has the gun has a Picatinny rail on it already. So it's,
okay. Oh, nice.
It's yeah. So he shot a little bit, like I said. I was trying to get a scope that has enough light gathering capability, and just something that's like you were talking about, something really easy, because I don't want to make it too complicated for him. And
yeah, I think any of the scopes of what we just said is that I would let him shoot and learn to shoot on low powers first, and so they start to understand and everything you would do with him. And look, I've got two boys that shoot, and by no means am I perfect at this. But I think anything you do with them, keep it methodical, keep it fun, keep it short stints of letting them learn, and I think at 10 years old, pretty much, if you make it fun and interesting, I think that they'll keep doing it for the rest of their life. So
yeah. Well,
Jeremy, what scopes have you looked at for them? Have you already been looking through some?
You guys hear me?
Yeah, I was going to say, what scopes have you been looking at?
It was a Nikon P5, I believe. It was a 4 to 16 by 50, I think.
Right.
I was looking at that one. They had them at Cabela's. I've looked at the Diamondbacks, like you said, Cody, and yeah, I just trying to worry about weight and stuff for him because I don't want to make it too heavy and and all that stuff.
Probably.
I
mean,
you had another option.
Of everything that I'm mentioning, I'm just going to put it out there. Probably the best scope for everything that you're trying to do and keep everything simple and and not putting too much power and still having good low light, you ought to take a look at that Leupold 3.5 to 10, because that scope's going to do everything that that you want it to do, and certainly going to do it out to let's just say 300 or 400 yards with no problem. And so I would tell you to maybe take a real hard look at that scope.
Okay.
We certainly send. Yeah, we sell quite a bit of them, and it's just, again, it's a Leupold product, and I'm going to stand behind that 100%.
Okay. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with Leupold. Leupolds have been around forever.
Yeah,
so.
if you're trying to keep weight down, and that's that Leupold and then the Diamondback are going to be the two lighter ones of the bunch.
Okay.
So, I would take a real hard look at those.
Okay.
Jeremy, what tags do you have this year?
I actually have a archery ibex tag here in New Mexico, and archery tag for deer in January as well. So, and that's it. My son, he has his first mule deer tag down in the southern part of the state. Yeah.
Oh, very cool.
So, and then I'll be guiding a couple of elk hunts this year in October. But my September's full. I have my wife and I are expecting a little baby boy or baby girl. So we're pretty excited about that. Yeah.
Good for you.
So busy fall.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, congratulations to you and your wife, and thoughts and prayers to you guys, huh?
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
thanks for calling in, and thanks for following on Instagram and be willing to come on and do this Q&A with Cody and I. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Jay. I appreciate everything you've done too, and really enjoy your podcasts, and just thanks for the good info that you always put out there.
Thank you, buddy. Drive safe. God bless you, okay?
All right. You guys too. Take care.
Thanks, bud.
J. Willie 41, what long-range Vortex laser scope would you put on an X-Bolt Hell's Canyon long-range 300 Win Mag?
Yeah, probably there's that 5 to 25 Generation 2. That's probably what I would go with. I'm typically not a big tactical, overly heavy scope, so I do something like that 5 to 25, and then and then put a turret on it, I think would be my my first choice. I think that would be the ultimate way to go.
Cody, I want to thank you for your time answering the listeners' questions, not only the questions we had in person, but the ones that came in on Instagram. And I know you're busy. I know you got to get with customers today. I really appreciate you spending time. I want to encourage the listeners to reach out to Cody, 702-847-8747, extension 2. Tell him how much you enjoyed this podcast. Cody, I appreciate you always being willing to talk with us, as well as I get a lot of feedback every single day from people that have called and purchased optics and tripods from you, and they talk about how much white glove service that you give them, and you take your you just dive all in and do a great job helping them, and I know you enjoy that. So I appreciate your time, and want to give you a chance to leave the listeners with anything, and then I'll let you go for the day.
Yeah, you know what? I just appreciate the opportunity to if anything, Jay, I get to tell people about my passion, and I've always been this way. I love finding game, and if I can help people do that, and with all the years and just all that time and experience, if I can help people in the field find more game and have a more enjoyable experience, I think that's what we're all actually trying to do. And I thoroughly like doing it, and I like talking to people and meeting people. So I just appreciate the opportunity.
Awesome. And for the listeners out there, do not forget about the promo that Go Hunt Gear Shop is running with the $1,000 giveaway all for this whole month of August. If you purchase anything from the Go Hunt Gear Shop or call Cody on the phone, Just follow the prompts that you want to be in the J. Scott 19 drawing, and someone out there is going to win a $1,000 gift card. So who doesn't want a $1,000 gift card to GoHunt.com, the gear shop? Guys, thanks for all of your support. I appreciate all of the loyal listeners. If you want to send me a direct message, you can on Instagram at JScottOutdoors. And you can also send me an email, jscottoutdoors@gmail.com. Hunting season is around the corner. There's antelope hunts starting up here soon. There's deer hunts. And then, of course, elk season is about a month away. So it's exciting times. We've got a lot of moisture across the Southwest. Not a lot of monsoons. Pretty dry monsoon, but I think we have enough winter moisture that antlers are good. There's been some governor tag and raffle tags and stuff starting to hit the ground, big animals all across the West. So it's an exciting time. Cody, appreciate all your time, and thanks coming
again,
on,
Jay.
okay?
Yep.
All right,
Love
take
helping.
care, buddy.
Later.
All right, bye.
Bye.